Okay. All right, so we're going to start over here, because most of the time when y'all come in, this is where you're going to come. So over here, I have a couple of buckets. I usually always have whatever, like the good clay that we're working from sitting on top of the bucket, and that's where you're going to cut your clay from. And then we'll also be able to return clay. So I usually try to monitor and keep the clay moist, so you don't have to necessarily hold on to a lot of clay and maintain the moisture level in it. You can just cut new every day. But we'll have basically we'll have a bag that you'll be able to return if it feels like it's drying out. We'll have a bag where we can return it there. Or we'll just put it back in the same one. I usually drench it in a little water, let it get moist overnight. So just a little bit of water sometimes makes a difference. And I just use a little twist tie. You can sit it next to it. Pull it down. And if you can't see, you can of course move. Okay, in this little tray, and it's kind of spilling out a little bit, I have a few wire tools. So last year we made our own wire tool. And if you're interested in having your own wire tool, because it is a handy tool to have, we can make it. This is just fishing line and a couple of paper clips, so it works really well. And so all we're going to do, I just kind of hold it a little tight, and I'm going to wrap it around it and pull, and it'll cut a piece of that clay out. Okay, this back. Don't leave it in here, because if it gets wrapped up in it, then that will cause a problem later on. Okay, all of this clay has been reclaimed. So the first step that we always need to do is we're going to wedge it. Okay, when we wedge, you're going to wedge at your table, not at the area where we're cutting from. In the back of the room, I have a purple basket that has some canvas on there. Some of the canvas pieces are kind of big, so in the morning when you come in and you're working, you can grab it and you can drape it across the table, and maybe several of y'all at your table can work at the same time. I'm probably going to move y'all around tomorrow, because I need y'all to kind of be more grouped together. It'll make cleanup a little bit easier, and kind of specifically for these kind of purposes, it'll be helpful. Let's see here. How much am I on top of here? If you're far away. Of course, if you want to come over here, am I in the camera space? Camera space? Okay, all right. Okay, so wedging is where we're going to kind of basically unify the clay back into one piece, because since this has all been reclaimed, and by that I mean that it has been dried out and then put moisture back into it, and it makes it workable and plastic again. So clay can continue to get reclaimed as long as it has not been fired. So like at one point, you never need to throw away your clay. We can reclaim it. We either can use like dust and clay scraps to be thrown into our slip jars, or we can put it back with the other clay and all you have to do is add water and wait. Okay? So there's a lot of air pockets in here. Air pockets are what's going to make your piece explode in the kiln. So air pockets are not our friend. So we want to make sure that we kind of get them all gone. And we're going to wedge it by just using a little elbow grease. This one that I do, it's called a ram's head. That is usually the one I default to. But when I push and wedge the clay, I use my whole arm, not just my wrist, because I don't have a lot of strength in my wrist, but I can use my whole arm to push down, and I just basically push my whole body weight, my upper body weight on top of it, and I rotate it. When I pull it up, I reposition my hands and push down. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it from the side. Can y'all see it okay? So I'm going to push down, rotate. Okay, and what happens is you can kind of see it maybe on the side. You see a little bit of the spiral here, and the shape kind of looks like a ram's head in there. And so I'm going to do that a few times just to see. If I want to check myself, I can use the wire tool to cut it in half to see if there's any air pockets. It looks pretty good, so that probably means it's probably pretty good with that. And with throughout, I just slam it together. I'm going to wedge it just a little bit more just to put those two pieces together, but I think it's pretty good. It's in a pretty good shape. So, okay. So we're going to roll slabs, and we're going to use the slab roller over here. This is the slab roller. It is not a pirate ship. We're not going to use this wheel and steer a pirate ship. It's on a pulley system underneath. If the pulleys break, then our slab roller won't work anymore, and it's quite costly to get fixed. So always it's controlled rolls. There's a piece of canvas that's on top, and then there's a canvas board. You want to sandwich your piece between our two pieces of canvas. If you just set it on top and you let this roller, then you have a mess to clean up because it's going to stick all to that roller, and you're going to have to clean it all up. It's not fun. It's happened. Okay. So we're going to put our clay down. You can kind of see the kind of thickness I have. I probably want to go much thicker than that. So if you have like it's more like a ball shape, kind of just hit it with your hand, kind of flatten it down. You're going to put it between your two pieces of canvas. Now the nice thing, you can see how big this is since, especially in the beginning when we're all making slabs, we can put several pieces down at once to roll it. So we can usually do 2 or 4, depending. If I rolled back a little further, I could probably put 4 or even possibly up to 5 or 6. Okay, depends on how big of clay. And we're just going to roll over it. You'll feel it in the wheel when it rolls over the entire piece of clay. And then you're just going to roll back. And I'll move this. Right now, this is kind of will stop us from going any further, but I'll move it out of the way so we can maximize it. Just going to roll it, and I have a slab. It's about 1/4 inch, about the thickness of a pencil, which is a perfect thickness. It can go a little bit thinner than this, but with what we're doing, I wouldn't go much thinner, just because it's then you're kind of running into some of your structural integrity. You might struggle with that until you learn how to work with clay a little bit more. Okay, make sure y'all can see. Okay, so here's our slab. Now I did wedge it pretty good, but sometimes when I roll the slab, I can see some surface pockets of air, like right here. And you can kind of feel it. And when y'all are going to get, is y'all are going to check out a bag of tools. It's going to have 7 tools in it. You're going to have a loop tool. That's a loop tool. This is called a Fetlin knife. This is a rib. This is a small loop tool. It's very tiny. We have a needle tool, which I already have used. This is just a modeling tool. It's just a wood tool. Now, which size or shape you're going to get is going to be different because there's a lot of different sizes and shapes. And then you're also going to get a scoring tool. There's 2 different kinds of scoring tools. There's this one that's orange. It has the metal teeth. And then there's one that looks like a rib and it has some teeth. Either one are going to work and do the same thing. Okay? So these are our tools that we're going to keep during the course of working with clay. But we can use our needle tool, and all I do is just kind of poke through a little bit of that, and I just tap it with my finger. I think it looks pretty good. Otherwise. Okay, so we have our shapes we'll take apart, If your shapes are pretty easy to take the top off, then you can go ahead and take it off. You can go ahead and remove everything and just use some scissors to cut along one of your seams to open this up. You can. Or you can also just keep them all together, and I can show you how to do it both ways. So if you pop it off, that'll be easy for me to do. I can just take this and I'll just trace over it and use my needle tool. This is 4 inches, so I might measure 4 inches. I do have clay rulers, so clay is dusty, so I have a different set of rulers for clay. They just kind of have a layer of dust on them. So don't grab one of the regular drawing rulers. We'll grab a clay ruler. And we're going to, what's up? Is it not on there? Oh, it's blurry. Is that better? Yeah? Okay. So I'm just going to use my needle tool to create a straight edge. And since it's 4 inches, I can go ahead and just going to do a little measurement, a little tick mark across, and then I'll line my ruler up with it. So I got that's going to be the height of it, and then if I have detached it, I can just use that to trace around like this. If you don't detach any of it, and then you can see, and you would do 2 of these, right? Because we need a top and a bottom. If you don't detach it, you can just put your form on top, your entire form on there, and do the same thing. So you just you're using, this is our template. This is why we did this. It'll make it fast for us to make all of our sides. If you, okay. So I got 2 sides. If you want to take both sides off, all you would have to do, and let's see if I can do it real quick. You might have to use the X-Acto knife to trim it off, but you might be able to pop it all off. I'm going to let y'all choose what you want to do with that. And then instead of, you don't have to use the X-Acto knife, I'm just going to trim at the corner here. Okay, that way I can lay it out like that. That's all my sides. And so if you decide to do that, if you take all of your forms apart, you can also use this as your slab. So I would just lay this on and then just trace around it. And then to separate it, I would just, everywhere it's folding, I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to I didn't mark the ends. Okay. I'm going to make all of my sides. Okay. So this is all the sides to one form. I'm going to just tell you that for you guys, when y'all are starting out, we might get started, and this might be as far as you get in a class period. Okay, that's pretty common until you start getting a rhythm and start like kind of being able to break it apart. So if you get to this part and I'm like, it's cleanup time, you're going to wrap it up a certain way, and I'm going to go over that with you right now because it will make it a lot easier when you get there. Now you can go ahead and if you want to go ahead and cut all of these down. You can use them as spacers between your slabs. So slab will dry out a lot faster, even in a bag, even if because that's what we do. We wrap everything up in a plastic bag at the end of class, but it dries fairly fast. Because you have less clay, more surface area, the air will dry it out a lot faster. So when we pack up clay, when we're in this state, is that I usually stack my slab pieces together so that they are like kind of covering each other. And I would I use this little piece to separate them. Now, if you don't want to cut your pieces up, then you just get like a paper towel and put one, and use a paper towel to separate them, because overnight the clay can start sticking together. So I put a little bit of something in there, my template that I've made, our forms, that works just fine too. And it also serves the purpose that I know I have a slab for every side of my form too. So it's a good checkpoint as well. Okay. So, and then we're going to have a board. We'll put it on the board. We'll cover the whole board in our plastic bag, and we'll put it in our locker. Okay? Most likely that's going to be a stopping point. Okay? But I am going to show you how to assemble the entire form so that when y'all are ready, y'all will be able to. Okay? I have a lovely tool. Maybe. That was the one tool I forgot to grab. Don't know where I put it. Give me a second. I want to show you, because I'm going to show you both ways, with the tool and without the tool. I thought that usually it's in this little tub. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, I hid them away in my drawer. Okay. All right, so I do only have a few of these. I might try to order some more of them. It's called a bevel tool. So a bevel is just, we're going to be clipping a little bit of the corner together so we can put this together. Of course, we could just do, score along here and then flatten it this way, but what happens is it starts changing the dimensions of the outside part of our shape, okay? And so when we bevel it, we can actually maintain, everything will fit together just like a puzzle, okay? So this is 4-sided, so we'll use the 45-degree angle one. There's a 30 and a 60 on this side as well. So when you use the bevel tool, we're going to put this flat part right here against the surface that we're working on, and we're going to flush this part up along the edge of our clay. So it looks like this. When I clip it off, it just clips the corner off, 45-degree angle, like that. Okay? I'm going to do that for all of my sides because it is 90 degrees all the way around for this form. If you have a different type of form, we might have to figure out what degree we're going to be putting it on. And I'm just going to do this. And this is where I was saying, like, I didn't want you to get too small because when you bevel it and everything, it starts to shrink one surface side of the piece. Okay. And I'm just going to do the walls first because I'm going to do the walls first, and then we'll do the top and the bottom. Okay. So the main thing is I got to know that this is one side, this is the other side, so that's going to be next to that one. This one's the next one, and this one's the last one right here. Okay? Oh, dang it. Every year I try to have everything ready, and I always forget one thing. All right, so now we're going to talk about scoring and slipping, which is the technique that we're going to use to attach our clay. It's like creating the glue and adhesive for clay. So those that worked with it last year, you remember we did always say like scratch before you attach, score and slip. Every time you join clay together like this, you're going to want to have some slip, or just adding water to it creates a little slurry and slip. So here's what happens. I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to scratch the surface. Okay, I want to create little grooves in that bevel. And every piece that's going to attach is going to have that. So this one is going to have it. And this one's going to have it. I'm going to just do it as I go. So, and I'm going to make sure I have this and this. Okay. All right, and then what I do is I'm just going to add a little bit of water. I'm going to give you all like a little toothbrush that you can use. The slip is like, you can see it has a little clay in here. Eventually when you have slip, you have like kind of it's a lot more clay in it, more of like a milkshake kind of consistency. And you put it on your surface, and then we'll push our two sides together like this. And I just use a little pressure on the outside to try to make sure I have a good contact all the way through. You see a little of the bubbles kind of forming up there. And I can use my rib to help me with trying to keep that sharp edge if I want to keep that really nice and clean. Okay. And then it's on there really good. So I can pull it like on it and with some pressure, and it's going to hold pretty well. What happens is that clay is a bunch of particles. And if I just said like here, let's push these two together, what happens is clay when it starts losing moisture, it starts to shrink. What happens when we start to shrink? We start pulling away from each other. So if you don't have your piece scored and slipped, then it will just fall apart. So here's when we score it, we create little teeth like this. We're opening up the clay. And then we put a little slip, is like the adhesive. So when we put it together, we like are interlocking those pieces. So when I try to pull apart now, as it starts shrinking, it shrinks together rather than apart. Okay? So that's really, really, really important. And so here I'm going to kind of keep going with my piece. I think this one was my next one, so I'm just making sure I'm going in my order. I can match it up the sides. Okay. Okay, and then this one's a little bit off, so it's not quite a 45 because of the way the angle is, but it will work fine for what I need to do. I'm going to make sure I put the slip on both sides because I'm going to attach and then close my layers. So I've kind of made my walls, and like I said, if you have a rib's really nice in for that to help us to put a little pressure and smooth it out a little bit. So I have my walls here. Now I can like it's a little rounded, I can round it out a little bit now. This one's a little puckered too. So hopefully when I put this on top, it'll fit right in there. Okay? So, and this is mirrored. So when we bevel this, we want to make sure that we're beveling it with a mirror. So we're opening it up like this. So because one's going to go on the top and one goes on the bottom. Oops. And if you, like I just kind of took a little off the side, later on I can go back and I can do a little repair. Clay is pretty good about doing a little repairs and cleaning up. Okay. And I'm just going to stick it on the top. Try to get it as matched up as possible. Where's my rib? Oh, here it is. Okay, and so I have one end to my form, and now I just need to do the other one. I'll round that out. Round that out. So make sure that you bevel on the side that's going to go face down. Otherwise, you have to make a new shape. So I would not throw away any of your templates until you're completely done with your entire sculpture. Just kind of maybe clip them together as you go so you know the sides go with what. And that way, if ever anything disastrous happens and you got to remake a form, you have everything and it'll go a lot faster. If you don't, then it's going to be a struggle for you to cut out the forms and remake your piece. Go all the way around. All the way around. So now I have a full, complete form. Now, when clay is really, really wet, it's kind of hard to clean up completely. So you want to get at least everything together, and most of it should be there. Like you shouldn't have gaping holes or anything. But if you want to clean up these edges more, it's going to be a lot easier as it gets rather hard for you to clean it up. Okay. But like now I have a full form complete. So you would repeat that process with each of your little forms that y'all have created. Okay? Now, I'm not going to talk about it today, but what did I essentially just make? What is something I need to consider before I put it in the kiln? What did I say earlier that would blow up your piece? Air bubbles. I just made a big giant air pocket, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make all of our forms first. Then when we go to assemble it, we'll start talking about where, like creating whatever your bottom piece is. We're going to put a hole on the bottom of it. And then as you're attaching it, you'll be cutting holes to allow air to pass through them before we start attaching them to each other. So in the end, let's see if I have I think I have some pieces right here. So these are all attached together. You can see I pick it up, they're all attached there. Y'all will score and slip and attach them all together as well. The bottom has a big giant hole. As I go through here, as they've attached them, they put a hole between like this bottom square and this rectangular piece on both pieces where they match up, and then the air will be able to pass through. So everywhere there's connected, there's like an air pocket, there's like an opening. Okay, when we get to that part, I will demonstrate that. But I want to, the first step is that we're going to be making all of our forms, okay? So let me talk to you. Oh, did I lose my screen? What happened? Did my computer? When did it do that? Did y'all miss some of my stuff?
No,
it just did it? Okay. All right. So let's talk about, like, at this point, what do we do for cleanup? So I knew we were going to take most of this time today. That's okay. Okay, probably tomorrow, y'all will come over here and grab one of these canvas boards that you'll use throughout the time we use clay. It's just a piece of MDF with canvas on top. And you can work on this if you want. You need to work on the canvas side. When we put the stuff down, we don't put it on the MDF, you put it on the canvas side. So this is how we are going to put it. You're going to make sure you put all of your pieces down in here. If you have slabs, like let's say these are slabs, we're going to have them be our pretend slab. You want to make sure there's a piece of paper or paper towel between each one. And you're going to set them, try to contain all of your stuff together. You can kind of see it. Try to put it as close together as possible. It's kind of like when you're cold and everybody needs to get together, it kind of helps contain the moisture. And then we're going to have a plastic bag. I'll give you a plastic bag. Right now, because everything is kind of small, you can put your entire canvas into the bag. When it starts getting bigger, we only put it on top of the clay piece. We don't need to worry about the bottom being dried out because it's not clay. So when it starts getting taller, when we start assembling it, we just put the bag on top of it and just kind of tuck it in around it. But this way you can use this. This will be what we use to store it in our locker. When I take all the paper, I try to get as much air out of it as possible. And either you can tuck it underneath for right now, or I have little twist ties that you can twist tie it. Okay, you take this and put it in your locker with your tools. You want to make sure you clean up your tools. So let's talk about that. I know this is a lot, so we're going to keep reviewing this as we go throughout this week. Okay, so at this point I got this ready. Now I got to get my clay tools ready. Okay, just if you don't have them, if they're not really messy, all you have to do is just make sure to get all the clay off of it. So you can just use your fingers to get it all off. If you use the bevel tool, you just kind of run your fingers along the wire. This one might be a little bit dirty, so I might want to rinse it out. If you have a tool that has a lot of slurry on it, it's really clay, we don't want to run it in under the sink because this clay will eventually build up and clog our sinks. So in each of the sinks, I have a black bucket filled with water. Each week, I just refresh the water, but you just wash it in that tub first. Get most of it off. If you want to do, like after you get most of the clay off, if you want to do a final rinse, then that's okay. That goes with your hands too. If your hands are just like covered in a lot of clay, kind of just do a pre-rinse and then wash them under the sink. Okay, it just helps minimize the amount of clay that goes down our sink. Okay, and you can dry it off, dry up your tools. I would, especially the metal tools, because they will rust. And you will just put everything back in your bag and zip it up. But that's what you're going to keep. Oops, I almost forgot one. You have 7 tools. 7. So every day you can count the magic number. This will go also in your locker, and y'all will hold on to this throughout the clay unit. Okay? The bevel tools will come. I'll have them probably on this little cart. One thing I did not go over that I can go over with you guys tomorrow really quick is how to create texture on your slabs if you want to do a roller or a stamp before you assemble them. So I'll just show you some of the different things I have, and then I have that also on this little cart over here as well. Okay, I know that was really fast, and Do y'all have any questions? What questions do y'all have about that? None? Okay, I hope you took good notes, because we will be having a quiz this week over it, and then we'll be also going over vocabulary terms as we go throughout this week as well. Okay? So the main thing is slab roller, templates, score and slip, air bubbles, going to cause your piece of book. Okay? Those are the things that I went over with you today. I think that's it. Okay? We're actually have a little bit extra time. So if you haven't turned in your planning, you can just export it. I can put that up there. You just export. When you go to File, go to Export JPEG or PNG. It'll download to your computer and just upload it to Schoology. Anything that you have downloaded to your computer for your photographs, to make your collage or whatever, you can delete them if you've uploaded them to Schoology. Okay? But if you want to upload them to your Google Drive, that's even better, because it's there should you ever need them and Schoology fails you. So, which happens. Okay? Oh, one last thing. I do have extra clay. I'm going to pack it together as much as possible. It's still pretty good clay. And I would just slam it back onto my block over here. At the end of class, I usually take a little bit of water. I'll put water in the water bottle, spray it, close it. It's good. Tomorrow, it'll be perfect for us. Okay? All right. So tomorrow, if you turn in your planning today, then I can check and you can probably get started with clay tomorrow. All right? So the motivation is to get our planning done and turned in. Yeah, that's my clay unit one, huh?
You got my submission? I'm not sure.
Yes, I saw yours in Brooklyn. I don't know if that was yesterday or Friday I saw. Let's see here. Oh, of course, Schoology is not working on my end at the moment. Oh, wait, nope, maybe. No. So this is. Let me turn off the.